30 seconds.
T-minus 25 seconds.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Starliner.
Go Starliner. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. The rise of Starliner and a new era in human spaceflight.
Clear the tower. Now 10 seconds into flight. Vehicle's begun the pitch over program. Body rate responses look good. Now 15 seconds in. PU's gone to closed loop control. RD-180 looks good at full thrust. Seeing good chamber pressure on both SRBs. Now 26 seconds into flight. RD-180 now throttling down to partial thrust as expected. Engine response looks good. Now 38 seconds in. RD-180 engine operating parameters continue to look good. Vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. Chamber pressures on both SRBs continue to look good. RD-180 engine operating parameters also continue to look good. Now passing 1 minute into flight. And Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic. And vehicle now throttling up. Engine response looks good. Continue to see good chamber pressure on both SRBs. 1 minute, 20 seconds into flight. Body rate responses on the vehicle look good. 1 minute, 30 seconds in, standing by for SRB burnout. And we have burnout on both solid rocket boosters. Atlas will hold on to the SRBs for an additional 48 seconds prior to jettison. RD-180 has gone back up to full thrust as expected. Engine response looks good. 1 minute, 50 seconds in. Atlas is now 17 miles in altitude, 11.5 miles downrange distance, traveling at 2,300 miles per hour. Now passing 2 minutes into flight. RD-180 engine operating parameters continue to look good at full thrust. And at 2 minutes, 11 seconds into flight, the Atlas rocket now weighs just 1/2 of what it did at launch, burning propellant at a rate of 2,800 pounds per second. And we've seen good indication of jettison of both solid rocket boosters. Vehicle's gone to closed loop guidance. Now just under 2 minutes remaining in the booster phase of flight. 2 minutes, 35 seconds into flight. RD-180 continues to perform well. Engine's now throttling down slightly. Engine response looks good. And Atlas V is now traveling at over 5 times the speed of sound. Centaur reaction control system is now pressurizing to flight levels. System response looks good. Three minutes, 10 seconds into flight. Atlas V is now 38 miles in altitude, 80 miles downrange distance, traveling at 5,800 miles per hour. RD-180 engine operating parameters continue to look good. Now 1 minute remaining until engine cutoff. Body rate responses continue to look good throughout the booster phase of flight. And RD-180 is now throttling to maintain a constant 3.5 G acceleration limit. Engine responses will all look good. Three minutes, 55 seconds into flight. And Centaur's begun the boost phase chill down sequence. 20 seconds to BECO. RD-180 continuing to look good as it throttles to maintain that constant 3.5 G acceleration limit. Atlas PU has gone to open loop in preparation for BECO. And standing by for BECO. And we have BECO booster engine cutoff standing by for stage separation. And we have good indication of stage separation.
So we did have, obviously, some challenges today. When the spacecraft separated from the launch vehicle, we did not get the orbital insertion burn that we were hoping for. It appears as though the mission elapsed timing system had an error in it. And that anomaly resulted in the vehicle believing that the time was different than it actually was. And because that timing was a little bit off, what ended up happening is the spacecraft tried to maintain a very precise control that it normally wouldn't have tried to maintain, and it burned a lot of prop in that part of the flight. And when that prop got burnt, it looked like we weren't going to be able to go ahead and rendezvous with the International Space Station. By the time we were able to get signals up to actually command it to do the orbital insertion burn, it was a bit too late. And the reason it was too late is because it appears, and remember, all of this is very early and preliminary, and we're learning things moment by moment, but it appears as though we were between TDRS communication satellites, which meant we couldn't get the command signal to tell the spacecraft that it needed to do the orbital insertion burn soon enough. A couple of things that are important to note, and I want to be very clear about this. We as an agency and our partners at Boeing and ULA have committed that when there is something that is a challenge, we will be very clear and transparent about it, and we will share information as early as possible. And we have done that, and we will continue doing that. It is important for us to build trust with the American taxpayer so that we can continue to do these magnificent things. But know this, a lot of things today did in fact go right. I would also attest that it could very well be that had we had Nicole Mann in the spacecraft, remember what the challenge here, this anomaly has to do with automation. And Nicole and Mike are trained specifically to deal with the situation that happened today where the automation was not working according to plan. And if we would have had crew in there, number one, they would have been safe. To be very clear, our crew would have been safe. And in fact, had they been in there, we very well may be orbiting, or we may be docking with the International Space Station tomorrow, had they been in the spacecraft. So a lot of things went right today. I want to be really clear. A lot of things went right, and this is why we test. And because we are now in orbit, and in fact elevating our orbit, we're going to get a lot more data and a lot more information in the coming days. So this is all very positive in general.
The rest of it, down to
And we see three main chutes. Billowing up, we have three main chutes. We see the red, white, and blue as Starliner descends. 2 minutes, 53 seconds from touchdown. And the rotation handle has deployed. That will level Starliner as it descends. Base heat shield has jettisoned. That is the base heat shield falling away as planned. Airbags are inflating.
And that is the last of the milestones. So now all that's left is for Starliner to float down to the surface of the desert in New Mexico. Everything continuing to look good on this camera that we're getting from the WB-57 cameras, infrared cameras, giving us as good a view as we could expect at nighttime.
2 minutes, 12 seconds to landing. Starliner descending under three good main chutes. All 6 airbags are confirmed to have deployed, and they are fully inflated as Starliner descends to the desert down in White Sands.
Just about 800 meters left to go. It's less than half a mile.
Great imagery there of it descending. Less than 1 minute to landing, less than 1 minute to touchdown at White Sands, New Mexico. Starliner floating smoothly and softly under 3 main parachutes.
Just 300 meters left to go. That's 984 feet. Very close now.
20 seconds. 20 seconds to landing the first Starliner flight test vehicle. And Starliner touches down in the desert in New Mexico. An historic landing in White Sands, New Mexico concludes the first flight test of Boeing Starliner spacecraft. The first time an American-made, human-rated capsule has landed on land.
That took place right at 6:58 a.m. Central Time, 2 days, 1 hours, and 21 minutes into Starliner's mission. Congratulations, Starliner.
Congratulations, indeed. And we do have views now. The hatch is open. Starliner's OFT hatch is open. Rosie and Snoopy inside, Rosie the Rocketeer and the low gravity indicator Snoopy both made the trip along with a lot of commemorative cargo, flags, coins, and even tree seeds that'll be planted in commemoration of this mission.
You can see just a little bit of Rosie there on the
There
left
you go.
side of the screen.
I do see her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like she had a great ride.
And there's a lot of activity around the capsule. This is a little bit reminiscent of the shuttle days when everybody would gather around the shuttle after it landed. And of course, you have crews come in with the Soyuz landing in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, this is a little less remote than the shuttle, but a little more remote, or not quite as remote as the Kazakhstan landing. Still, it does start to look familiar, and it looks like we may be getting close to having the crew ready to talk with us. In fact, I'm going to toss it right on to Dan Hewitt, who is in the field. How are you doing, Dan?
Hey, Dan, I don't think has his program line working, so I'm going to take it from here. But, we're here with NASA's Nicole Mann, Boeing's Chris Ferguson, and NASA's Mike Fink. Guys, Nicole, I'll start with you. I'm guessing this is your first spacecraft landing.
This is my first spacecraft landing. It was incredible to see. We're so excited for the Boeing and NASA team, and the recovery forces today just did an incredible job.
Crystal clear day. You could see it from about 300 kilometers away. Good double sonic boom. Watched all of the pyrotechnic ordnance that deployed the parachutes, take care of itself on the way down, and we saw it all the way to touchdown, even on just a crystal clear but cold morning. Worked great.
And Mike, your initial thoughts?
3 parachutes, 6 airbags, and a beautiful soft landing. Can't wait to try it out.
So we had a flawless launch. We had a couple of issues once we were up there. What's it mean now to see this vehicle come down, almost picture perfect?
Flight test data, flight test data, flight test data. We got a lot of data on the launch, the orbital portion of the flight, the ECLIS system, that's environmental control life support. Everything's worked great, and then we brought it home and everything worked. It was great data, and we're going to analyze it, and we're going to see anything that we need to fix for the next flight, but it's looking good.
Now, Chris, I remember when I was with you down in the simulator in Houston, you talked about how much different this is going to be coming back than the shuttle because you're almost coming in backwards. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, what really impressed me was, the shuttle sort of glided into the atmosphere, and yeah, at the sort of at the end game, it was pretty steep. This was really steep, so it almost looked like it was going to overshoot the landing site, and at the last minute, gravity sort of took over, and it pretty much came straight on down. So I was a little curious about the boom. We got a nice double boom out of it. I wouldn't say it was real loud, but other than that, being able to just watch the entire sequence from the ground on down was just fantastic. I heard our radar team picked up lock right over the mountains as it was mountain rise, which is great. I heard that the WB-57 with reconnaissance and telemetry data picked up a lot as well. So we're going to have a lot to look at. I think really clean landing.
Now, the reason we took a little bit to get you guys over here, we had to go get you away from that base heat shield. You were examining that, Nicole, seeing the crew module and the heat shields around here, what did it look like seeing the hardware on the ground to you?
It was amazing to me. I couldn't imagine that it had just come through the atmosphere at incredible temperatures. It looked like it was in great shape. You could see when it impacted the ground that it had a little damage. But other than that, it really looked uniform, and it was really in great shape. I think we're going to get a lot of great data from recovering those.
I am here with Sunny Williams. She is going to be the first post-certification mission commander of this ship that's behind us here. Sunny, I've been in a lot of flight test readiness reviews with you. I've seen you interacting with our employees. Mm-hmm. I saw you at the landing and recovery pre-brief meeting. Every time you're like, you have got to bring this ship back home so I can get into space with Josh and fly it again. So give us a recap of how you are feeling watching, Starliner return from space out here.
Yeah, it was really pretty unbelievable. It was picture perfect. Everything about it was just amazing, from seeing the tail as it flew in. Well, first of all, seeing the space station fly over, that was cool. Seeing the tail of the spacecraft fly over, see all of the pieces and parts start to come off, the forward heat shield, the base heat shield, see the parachutes open up. I mean, it was just picture perfect. We had a beautiful, amazing team all out here ready to support. Everybody was pumped. Everybody was cheering. It was spectacular. I mean, she's back. She's home.
Yeah. So, Sunny, dating back to Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, all of the commanders of their space capsules have had the ability to name their spaceships. And so, on behalf of the Boeing company, we would really love for you to name that spaceship behind us. Any thoughts on a name?
Yeah, I have an idea. A little homage to other explorers and the ships that they rode on. I think we're going to call her Calypso.
Calypso. So let's think about this, right? Ship, Jacques Cousteau. Yeah, his ship, Calypso. And so you're an avid diver, right? Yeah. So walk me through why you think that name is fitting.
Yeah, of course, I love the ocean. I love what the ocean means to this planet. We would not be this planet without the ocean. There's so much to discover in the ocean, and there's so much to discover in space. Just seemed like a natural marriage.